mysteries had never been discussed or uncovered. But now, Contumacious Ant and Atreya are back for a second season. The MO Podcast.
Hello and welcome all into the MO Podcast. You're here with me, as always, Contumacious Ant.
And me, Atreya.
And today we are going to be talking about true crime. I'm going to be talking about, quite frankly, the legend that is Colton Harris Moore. And what are you going to be talking about?
I'm going to be talking about the murder in room 1046.
Oh, now. Oh, I do like this one. Oh, this one's interesting, and you've piqued me interest there now. So you may as well start and
Okay.
strap ourselves in.
Do you just like this one because of the maid's name? Because that's what intrigued me.
There's a lot of interesting things in this case. From I've only heard it from one source, obviously one source. But
Do you mean BuzzFeed?
Yeah. So that's where I heard
good.
it from. So and it was quite amusing. But
Yeah.
it is intriguing about what happened. But go on. I'll let you.
It's
I'll let you
very similar to other stories that we've covered, like the Somerton Man and the Oslo woman murder. It's very similar to that kind of deal, isn't it? So
Important edit. Atreya means Dear Star Woman here, but we can forgive her.
it's not really new ground, but it's also very interesting in its own right.
Yeah.
So, on 2nd of January 1935, a man checked into a hotel in Kansas City called the President Hotel. For all it's got a really posh name, apparently it was a little bit shady.
Kansas City isn't actually in Kansas.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that just seems silly to me.
If it's the Kansas City, it's I don't know if it's on the border, but it's not in Kansas. I think it's in, is it Milwaukee that's next door to Kansas? Anyway, sorry, that's just a random
Legit
fact.
makes no sense. You know what else doesn't make any sense?
Go on.
Why is it Kansas, but it's not Arkansas, it's Arkansas? Like, make your mind up. Do you want it to be called Kansas or Kansas? Is it? Why is it not Arkansas? I don't understand.
So many issues with Americans and naming stuff.
For real. Like, just stick to nicking names from the UK, okay? Just stick to nicking New York, New Hampshire, New Bedford. Just stick to nicking our names, because
Yeah, don't try and be original. You're not good
you
at
have
it.
trouble when you're original. Yes. So anyway, he checks into this seedy hotel in Kansas City, and he had barely any luggage. He basically just had a comb and a toothbrush, which, I mean, I guess, to be fair, if you were only staying like overnight or something, and it's a guy, guys aren't really bothered about nice posh dresses or anything. Maybe he was just staying overnight. Maybe he had he was going out on the drink or something. You wouldn't really take a great deal of clothes, but
I'd be amazed if he had a toothbrush with him, quite frankly.
I mean,
if he's anything like me.
It was the 30s. Men had hygiene standards back then. They've slipped ever since. Just saying.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he checks in. He has hardly any luggage, and he asks for a room on a high floor of the hotel. Straight away, if I was like the receptionist, I'd be like, "Oh God, we got a jumper." I would just be.
None of the windows open outwards, sir.
Yeah, I would be proper
Just tell you that
suspicious.
straight off the bat.
So he checks in under the name Roland T. Owen. And he's constantly talking to all the staff about the hotel down the road is just, honestly, they should be wearing stripy jumpers and balaclavas. Their prices are outrageous. Like, I feel like the staff at the President Hotel were probably just like, we don't care. Okay, just hire your prostitute. Keep your room nice. Don't jump. and just check out tomorrow. Everything's
Yeah.
going to be cool.
Yeah. Just check out. That's all we ask. We don't care what goes on in between now and then. Just
Exactly. And we don't care about the hotel down the road because, frankly, we're not really all about standards at this hotel. You know, we just work here. That's it. We don't care. So he was given room 1046, which was on the 10th floor. And yeah, so as I say, it was pretty seedy, and there was it was basically a hotel for businessmen who were, you know, just basically looking for booty calls, and they needed somewhere to stay. I kind of thought motels were the choice for that kind of deal, but apparently not. So anyway, so the day after he checks in, January 3rd, the hotel maid, who is called Mary Soapdick. Can't even. I'm sorry.
just like, I mean, the shemade called.
Soapdick. It's kind of fitting, really. I mean, it's not actually spelled soap dick. It's soap tick. But it's kind of fitting that a maid is called soap dick.
Yeah. It's yeah. Okay.
So anyway, she comes in and she wants to clean his room, and the door's locked from the inside. So she knocks. You know, he opens the door, and there's a bit of to-ing and fro-in, like, oh, are you busy? Is it okay to clean your room? He says, sure, whatever. And she walks in and she's a bit like, oof, this guy clearly has a hangover because the curtains are drawn. The room is like really, really dark. The only light is just this tiny little dim table lamp. And he just lets her clean the room, and he's just sitting on the bed, like in almost complete darkness, not saying anything. It's like,
It's so weird. Just
watching
her clean in the dark. Like, what's wrong with it?
And also, she can't be that good a maid if she's okay with cleaning in the dark. How does she know that it's clean?
Well, hourly, innit? She don't care.
True. She's only on $5.45 an hour, so she doesn't give a shit.
Not performance-related pay. Jesus.
Exactly. So anyway, she cleans the room, and Owen goes, oh, I've got a friend coming to visit me later, so can you just leave the door unlocked? Because I'm a lazy bastard and I can't be asked to get off the bed again. I like to just sit here in silence in the dark, just contemplating life. So she's like, okay. And then he leaves. And 4 hours later, she comes back to the room and she's got fresh towels. And the door is still unlocked. And she's like, okay, so I'm not really sure whether he's back or not, but she goes in, and he's laying on the bed. So he came back in the meantime. He's laying on the bed. He's fully clothed. It looks like he's asleep, and there's a note on his bedside table that says, Don, I'll be back in 15 minutes. Wait. So she's like, okay, whatever.
So that's a lie, because he's there.
Yeah, exactly. So she cleans the room. These rooms are getting cleaned too many times a day for my liking, to be honest. Sometimes I'm inclined to think maybe his Mary Soapdick was, you know, keep coming back because she thought that maybe somebody was leaving their wallet out, or I don't know.
She's going rifling through the bag.
Yeah, like how many times a day do you need to clean my room? Like, I'm taking this as a personal insult. I'm quite a tidy person, you know.
I've not seen your iPad, Roland. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's just a bit like, come on. And it's a big hotel as well. She must have been knackered after keep going in the rooms 3 or 4 times a goddamn day.
10 floors and
Exactly.
36. There's at least 36 rooms on each floor. Bloody hell.
I know, right? So, anyway, the next morning, she comes back up to the room again, and she comes to make the beds. And she notices that the door is this time locked from the outside. And so she's like, oh, okay, cool, I'll just crack on, you know, because he's out. He's locked the door from the outside and he's gone off and done his business. So I'm going to go in and clean while he's not here. So she opens the door and then she's like, whoa, shit, okay, sorry, dude. And he's sitting in the room and he's sitting in the dark in a chair in the corner, just
standard
contemplating life. Yeah. And she's like,
being Roland.
Yeah, She's like, okay. And so she's cleaning and the phone rings and he picks it up and she hears him say, no, Don, I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry. I just had breakfast. And then nothing. And then, no, I'm not hungry. She's like, okay, whatever. And then he hangs up the phone and he starts just general chit-chat with her and complaining about the price of the hotel down the road again. Like,
get over it, dude. You're not there. You're
this
here.
boring conversation. How many times do you want to tell us about this? So anyway, she cleans the room. She goes. She leaves him alone in the room. And then she kind of walks down the corridor and thinks, hang on a second. The room was locked from the outside. And he was inside. Somebody locked him in his own room. That's weird. She thinks nothing more of it, and then later on in the day, she comes back with fresh towels. Now, she knows she's taken the dirty towels out with her that morning, so she knows there is no fresh towels in that room. So she knocks on the door, and she hears two voices inside the room, two men talking. And a voice that is distinctly not Owen's goes, who is it? And she's like, hey, it's just me, the woman that cleans the room 4 or 5 times a day. I've brought you some fresh towels. And the voice says, we don't need any. And she's thinking, like, you fucking do, because I took your dirty ass towels out this morning, so there ain't no towels
smell
in
you
this
from
room.
here.
Yeah. So she was like, okay, this guy's just a bit rude, so she just buggers off. She's like, well, you know what? Don't have any fresh towels. Try getting out of the shower and just air drying yourself for 4 hours afterwards. So anyway, in the meantime, this woman checks in downstairs. She's called Jean Owen. Not anything to do with Roland Owen. They just have the same last name. And
oh, no imagination.
oh, no imagination. Yeah.
Which, as we know, is standard for the Americans.
So she checks into the room right next door to his, right? And apparently she heard this like ruckus, and she could hear like several people talking and cursing and shouting and effing and blinding. And there was a party going on the same floor, so maybe, she just thought that it was next door, but it wasn't. But she thought that it was coming from that room. That we never really have found out if it was or not. But there was a commotion that she heard, and she was convinced it was coming from Roland T. Owen's room. But it is known there was a party on that floor, so whether or not she overheard the wrong room, I don't know. The same night, this commercial woman, she was described.
I love that.
Basically, she was a hooker.
Yeah.
And she showed up, and she was wanting to, I guess, service a man in room 1026. And apparently this guy was like he was always on time, he was a regular, and she was looking all over for him and she couldn't find him, so she buggered off and went home. It kind of seems unrelated, but this is a guy who's always there who wasn't there at the same time as Jean Owen hearing a commotion in what she thought was room 1046, whatever. So anyway, the next day, it got noted that the phone in room 1046 had been off the hook for 10 minutes. No one was using it. So the bellboy went upstairs and he knocks on the door, and there's a do not disturb sign on the door. And he's just like, well, what the shit? I'm still going to knock anyway because the phone's been off the hook and this is all going on our bill. So, So he knocks on the door, and Roland T. Owen says from inside, hey, come in. And so the bellboy tries the door and it's locked. And he's like, dude, I would come in, but the door's locked. Could you just, open it? And yeah, there's no response from inside. So he knocks again. He's like, dude, seriously, I can't get in. I don't have the master key. Can you please open the door? No response. So by this time, the bellboy's really pissed off. And apparently, the customer isn't always right. And customer service is it's just non-existent really in this hotel. So he just shouts in put the fucking phone back on the hook, asshole. And then he just leaves. He just goes back downstairs. He just assumes that the guy was drunk or something, and just knock it off the hook or something. So an hour and a half later, it gets noted again. Phone's still off the hook. Bellboy's fuming at this point. Right? He's like, I'm fucking.
I can imagine. I've got better things to do with my life than go up and down these stairs.
Phones back on the hook. What is my life right now? This is what it has boiled down to.
Jesus.
Where did I go wrong?
I had dreams and aspirations.
I wanted to be a movie star.
God.
You know?
God, I finished uni with a 2.1 in media.
So he goes back up to the room, and he's got the master key this time because Mama didn't raise no fool. So he opens the door, and he sees Roland T.O. and he's lying on the bed, and it seems like he's absolutely wasted drunk. And the bellboy's just like, you know what? I can't even right now with you, so whatever. Puts the phone back on the hook, closes the door, locks it, goes back downstairs, and says to his boss, that guy's a douche, just so you know. Like, maybe he just had a drink and had some fun and left the goddamn phone off the hook. Like, don't be hating, you know? It does,
It happens, doesn't it? Yeah, I know.
So, he knows he put the phone back on the hook, he locked the door. An hour later, Fred, the phone's off the hook in room 1046 again. He's like, fuck my goddamn. All right, this is just, I am done with this right now. So he goes up to the room. He's like ready. He's fucking ready to just let hell go loose. And he opens the door, and he's ready to have a go at this drunken idiot. But the drunken idiot is not drunk. He's sat like in front of the door with his head like cradled in his hands, and there's blood splattered all over the walls. It's on the ceiling. He's got stab wounds. He's got a punctured lung. His head's been bashed in. He's got laceration marks around his neck and his wrists. He's still alive. And the bed sheets and the towels were stained with blood. I mean, I thought, to be honest, that Mary Soapdick didn't get in to refresh the towels, but clearly at some point she just thought, I'm not going to let a little altercation with two men stop me from delivering fresh towels. Oh no, so she must have delivered them.
This is my job, goddammit.
Very important to her daily routine.
It's my surname and my job.
So she clearly got in at some point. There was blood all over the towels. So anyway, of course, they ring ambulance, they ring the police, and the police come out, and the doctors say to him, like, obviously not, are you okay? Because he clearly wasn't okay. But it was like, who did this to you? And he's like, no one. And they're like, well, you didn't manage to stab yourself in the chest 5 times and puncture a lung, then beat yourself around the head enough to fracture your skull and tie cords around your own neck and wrists while you were doing it. And he was like,
in fairness, we were all warned never to jump on the bed. Maybe this is what happens when you jump on the bed unsupervised.
What, you stab yourself in the chest 5 times?
Who knows? Well, who knows?
Okay,
it's just a theory.
Okay. Well, his response was that no one did it. He slipped and he hit his head against the bathtub. Having been so drunk at one point that I have slipped on the bathroom floor and hit my head on the bathtub, I can safely say I did fail to stab myself in the chest 5 times and receive cord marks on my neck and wrists after falling and hitting my head on the bathtub. Can confirm. Did not receive those wounds.
Where are you finding a knife? In a hotel room as well.
Maybe he ordered steak.
There's not a kitchen. There's not a maisonette. Yeah, well, maybe fair enough. Room service. I mean, to be honest with you, it doesn't sound like the kind of hotel that has room service.
You're not wrong.
And if they did, you wouldn't order from it. But yeah. Okay.
So anyway, he gets taken to hospital, and he falls into a coma, and he dies several hours later. So they're just like, they go into the room and they're like, this is just a bit weird. Like, the bellboy's like, okay, so the phone was off the hook a few times. Like, maybe he'd been trying to ring somebody for help and he couldn't make it, you know, and just kept dropping the phone.
Oh, imagine. And he kept storming him, going, you prick!
Put the fucking
been
phone
up and down these stairs 12 times.
Yeah. I mean, how did that guy sleep at night afterwards? Seriously.
Oh, God. What a shit bellboy. Fucking hell.
So what the coroner and the doctors discovered was that when the bellboy actually first went in, when he unlocked the room with the master key, and he saw him lying on the bed naked, the bellboy had stated that he had noticed a dark stain around him, right? What else is it going to be except for blood? But apparently, a
Wow.
dark stain.
We've all had them wet farts.
He was lying on his front.
After a bad kebab.
He was lying on his front.
I mean, gravity. Come on.
Okay. So anyway, the bellboy had said he'd seen a red stain on the bed covers.
Oh, it's red now.
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
Fitting your narrative, is it? Okay.
No, my bad. A dark stain. So yeah.
Yeah.
So they were just kind of like, I don't get it. He didn't have any clothes with him. And when they did they looked into it and they were like, Roland T. Owen, get him on the database. And they're like, he's not on the database. There's nobody called Roland T. Owen. Oh, there's the man who is checked in as Roland T. Owen into the seediest hotel in town where hookers frequent. He checked in under a false name. No fucking way. Oh, who saw that coming?
Dun, dun, dun.
So, and they couldn't even find what could have been used as a murder weapon or whatever. And they found 4 fingerprints on the phone, which were never identified. I mean, did they check his fingerprints? Because he was the one kept trying to. I mean, if somebody was if somebody murdered him or attempted to murder him, and then kept taking the phone out of his hand and putting it off the hook, I don't understand.
I mean, it is the 1930s, though, isn't it? Like, how far were forensics at this time? Do you know?
I know, yeah. But I mean, their logic was somebody had been in the room taking the phone off the hook, or he'd been trying to call and he kept dropping the phone. I don't understand on what planet would you go? What I'll do is I'll just leave the phone off the hook because, say you're the murderer, I'll leave the phone off the hook because that don't look well suspicious and will keep drawing attention to this room. What I'll do is I'll leave the phone on the phone. Nah, Roland. Put that phone down. I'll put it back on the hook, and then I will not cause attention to come to this room because that bellboy, I mean, he hasn't got the greatest smarts in the world, but eventually he's going to be onto us. Why?
Just shout a lot.
Do I just deliberately take it off the hook? That's not. I don't.
Yeah, it does draw attention, doesn't it?
So, anyway, the hotel down the road, the one that was outrageously priced, eventually came to the police, and they were like, "Dude, there was somebody who came into our hotel who looked exactly like the picture that you've said that this Roland T. Owen looked like, except he checked in under a name Eugene K. Scott." So the police are like, "Get him on the database, check him out. What's the score?" And the administrators were like, "There's no Eugene K. Scott either. We're sensing a bit of a trend here, with the initial for the middle name and these people that just aren't on the database. I think maybe he was up to dodgies. He wasn't checking in on his real name." So anyway, they couldn't figure out who he really was.
It was the 30s as well. You could just show up and say, "I'm Reginald fucking Bartholomew III," and they'd go,
"All right.
Yeah, we don't need any proof of that."
Exactly.
You just come right in.
Exactly.
Nowadays, you need a credit card and passport and God knows
Driver's
what.
license.
Retina scan.
I know, right?
Fucking Bill Gates.
So they couldn't figure out who he was, so they buried him, give him a little funeral, and somebody donated flowers and the money to cover the funeral costs. And the note just said, "Love forever, Louise," or some sources say Lucille, whatever. But they never discovered who Louise/Lucille ever was. And then the following year, this woman comes forward, and her last name's Ogletree. It's another stupid name. It's like Soap Dick. And she said that Roland T. Owen was her son who'd been missing for years, and that his name was Artemus Ogletree. That's a made up name if ever I heard one.
Exactly. Right? I mean, if it's not a made up name, it's a name from the 1700s. It's like
definitely.
If you were named that at school, you were bullied. I'm sorry. Kids are horrible, and they would have just
would have locked him in the lockers.
What?
Every day.
Artemis? What?
And she said he'd been staying in a hotel in Kansas City when he went missing, and that previously he'd sent her, well, a letter had come allegedly from Artemis, and it was typed up on a typewriter, and she thought it was a bit weird because she was like, he can't use a typewriter. So, I mean, that at the time didn't trigger any, something bad's happened to my son.
He can't read. What's he doing? 2-1 media studies, I tell you.
So it was never really discovered if he was her son or not, because, you know, loads of people came forward and said, oh, yeah, he's definitely my son. And, like, you know, how people just like to jump on the bandwagon and, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that I don't get that.
But they never found out who Don was. Nobody came forward. And they never really found out what happened to him. He had no ID. He had no, you know, any possessions on him. And so to this day, it is still unsolved.
Well, do you know what? I've just solved it.
Go on, then.
So, you know how the door was locked from the outside, and then he spoke to Don on the phone?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I don't want any breakfast. I've already eaten. Got a Kate you up situation. Don's clearly a feeder, and he's locked him in his room because he don't want him going anywhere. He's filming it. I don't know how, but this is how the whole Bang Muck stuff started, with Artemis Ogletree locked,
eating full-on tentacles in a locked room.
Exactly.
In Kansas City.
Forced to by Don.
Well, I know that some people are like, Don, so it's got to be like a mafia hit, right? But I don't think so. It kind of sounded like maybe this guy was friends with Owen. Like, he was trying to be like, hey, have some breakfast. I'm not feeding you. I'm not a feeder. This is not a Kate you up situation. I worry about your health. And, you know, Owen was like, I'm not fucking hungry, okay? I literally ate a full octopus like 20 minutes ago.
God, and
it's
you
on
filmed
YouTube.
it.
Check
you
it out.
You filmed it, dickhead.
Exactly.
It's in black and white, but with old-timey music over it. But
and then you get the people that say, like, oh, it was same as like the Summer and Man kind of deal. Like, he was a spy. I just feel like he wasn't a very good spy. He was so dodge. It was unreal.
No.
Like, sitting in the dark by yourself. He sounds like a fucking villain from an Austin Powers movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a crime of, I don't want to say of passion, but I think it was, he was I don't want to even say trafficked either, but I just think that Artemis, if that was his name, Roland, I think he was just in a bad situation and had people around him who would try to control him for whatever reasons.
But then why wouldn't, when the police found him and he was still alive, why wouldn't he just say, yes, okay, Don is a feeder, and yes, it is me on the YouTube videos, and please help me now? He was like, no, nobody did this to me. I slipped in the bathroom and hit my head on the bath. Because like, if he was a captive, why not just... Like, I don't know, maybe
he thought he'd recover from it, and then, like, if he's grasped on him, then the repercussions could be worse. I mean, maybe it's Stockholm syndrome. Maybe he's just thinking like, oh, maybe I deserve this kind of thing. Obviously, it's kind of unsolved, and all we could do is speculate about it. And I don't know. It is up there with the Istar Woman and the Somerton Man. It is just one of them things that this thing happened. This was okay. The Somerton Man went in his sleep, and the Istar Woman was burned to death. And this is a bit more gorier. It's a bit more like he was murdered. I mean, he didn't slip in that bath.
Clearly.
No way did he
Stab
do
himself
that.
5 times in the chest.
And then tie himself up with cable.
He tied himself up, exactly, yeah. The police said that he was clearly tortured. It's like, I just don't understand. It's not like he didn't seem like he was scared. He was just chilling in his room. Like, he was just a bit odd. This whole case is just weird.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe he was, I don't know, maybe he was, slightly, maybe he had mental health issues or something and he had to have like some sort of carer. But, back in the 30s, it wasn't cool and nobody talked about it. And, you got shipped off to an asylum back then, didn't you?
Well, yeah, exactly. And then maybe Don was the carer and he just snapped one day and just went, you know what? Stop your shit.
Yeah, and, I'm done with you leaving the phone off the hook. I can't take it anymore.
Fucking that bellboy.
Was this OCD or something? That was his OCD. He didn't like to have the phone on the hook, and Don was just like, I'm done with this. Fucking done. Don is done.
Exactly. And maybe he just like backhanded him once too much with a knife.
And a blunt object enough to bash his head in and fracture his skull.
Yeah, and puncture his lung. So...
Mm-hmm. It's a weird one.
It is, yeah. He was going to be buried in a pauper's grave as well, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, yeah.
And then some mysterious person contacted the funeral home and sent money, so he was actually buried in a designated grave.
Yeah. Yes, Louise, whoever Louise was.
Yeah. And the thing that pissed me off about the BuzzFeed episode is that they didn't know what a pauper's grave was. They just seemed puzzled by it, and it's like, it's just a pit where you just throw dead bodies in because they ain't got any money. It's just, surely, I'm sorry, if you don't know that's what it is, that is what it is, and it's just infuriating because we used to call everyone a pauper when we were young.
Oh, yeah.
The smelly kid at school, you pauper, get some fucking deodorant.
I mean, even what about like the story, The Prince and the Pauper?
Well, yeah, exactly. I think
it's quite a famous story.
Yeah, I think they just do it on purpose because they can't pronounce women either. Fucking Nick Crowley and slagging off other YouTubers now, but Nick Crowley and the lad from BuzzFeed say woman rather than women.
Women.
Yeah. The woman. It's like, why are you saying that? There's a group of women. Woman. It's
a group of women.
Yeah. It's just so annoying. Anyway, sorry. Just
My favourite fact of this whole case, though, is that the detective that was working on it at the time said, there is no doubt that someone else is mixed up in this. No shit, Sherlock. Detective of the Year award goes to...
It weren't the guy from the Mad Butcher case, the one with the bindle, was it? It weren't him walking around with a bindle like that. Oh, yes, well, someone else must be involved in this.
I forgot about that little fact there, yes.
God.
Crazy detectives.
Just to be a detective in the 30s must have been just like a Wild West. They must have just gone, right, we're transitioning from the Wild West, from cowboys, so all you cowboys, you just become detectives and just keep living the life you were leading, but now do it legally.
I think it would be quite fun to be a detective in the 30s.
It'd be great.
Anything goes, doesn't it?
Yeah. Dames, whiskey,
dames.
Yeah, they were called dames back then. That's not sexist.
Whiskey, cigars.
Exactly, yeah. Like, oh, God, trench coats. Oh, to be alive.
Or not, if you're Roland T. Owen.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, no, it's a really good story. I do enjoy that. That story about Roland T. Owens and the murder in, is it 1036?
1046.
1046. Out by 10. Would have saved Owen if his murderer was out by 10, but...
You know what? Nobody even ever suggested that it might have been Soap Dick that did it.
You know.
She was in and out of that room.
I tell you what, like...
More times than the hookers.
Exactly. Did anyone check if he had his iPad with him? Because...
Nobody thought it was the maid. No one ever thinks it's the maid.
Exactly. It's like no one ever thinks it's the joggers, but they find all the bodies.
They do, don't they? It's always the joggers and the cyclists. Like, what is your trauma? Why are you killing all these people?
What's going on? Never trust them. That's why I don't exercise.
If you want to be a murderer, the best disguise is to be a jogger.
True. It's so true. Not a cyclist, because you stand out too much by running all the red lights and riding on pavements.
And wearing neon yellow, fluorescent spandex.
Yeah, that doesn't fit properly in any places.
That would bust me straight away because, I clearly, if I wore spandex, would not look like a cyclist. I've got a bit of a beer gut and... I could do with a butt lift, and it's just like people would be like, "Whoa, okay, she's clearly a murderer."
Yeah, like she shouldn't be on that bike. Something suspect about that. Remembering that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick to being a jogger. I think.
Yeah, go under the radar.
I got to catch the fuckers first, haven't I? I got no chance.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's it. Jesus Christ, they could just fast walk away from you.
Exactly. I don't think I'm cut out for being a murderer, to be honest. I'd be pretty shit if I'm that kind of murderer.
It's too much hard work, to be fair.
I'll just get a fedora and a bindle. Just be a detective instead.
Yes.
So, your case.
Yeah.
Hotel.
So, Colton Harris Moore, he was known as the Barefoot Bandit.
Love it.
This was it recently, so, and I'm just gonna put a disclaimer out there. I personally think he's a legend, but obviously there's other people out there that won't think he's a legend, and I'll just get into the story. But he's one of my heroes, to be honest. So basically, he was brought up in kind of a broken home. I mean, his father was in prison. His mother wasn't too great, and Child Protective Services were called several times by the neighbours. And he had a stepdad, but unfortunately, he died when Colton was 7 years of age. So he didn't have a lot going on in his family life. So by the age of 7, he started retreating into the woods, and he'd live in the woods for days on end. He kind of became this survivalist, and he lived in the Washington State area, which is where Seattle is and where Starbucks is from, and near Canada, basically. So there's kind of a lot of holiday homes there.
Yeah. That
they have. So what he would do while he was out in the woods kind of living the survivor's life is he'd break into these holiday homes knowing there's no one there, and he'd just take a little bit of food, some blankets, and then go back into the woods and just cook them, put them in his bindle, I suppose. Yeah, maybe.
How desperate was he?
But cook his little bit of food around the campfire and then huddle up for the night in his blankets. So this is from 7 years old, so he's really not had a great start. And he was in and out of trouble for years, up until the age of 12, and he was finally convicted of theft. And because of kind of the way, I don't know, maybe he was put on probation or whatever, but before he was convicted of this theft in 2008, he was sentenced, he was going to be sentenced to 3 years imprisonment, but he was staying at a halfway house, and which is basically, if you don't know, is a house which isn't your own home, so you're away from your parents, but it should be supervised by people, at least. But he just up and walked off from this halfway house and disappeared. And the judge was the next day in court going, I was supposed to sentence him today for 3 years, and he fucks off. How's he done that?
Walked out.
Ah, bloody! You don't have any locks on that door. Fuck you know.
What happened to his electronic? Hasn't been invented yet.
Yeah, shit. So this kind of he became a fugitive basically, and he kind of embarked on a 2-year crime spree. Now, I'm putting that in air quotes because he never harmed anyone, and it was just property and stuff that could be claimed back on insurance. And
when you say like a crime spree in air quotes, did he put the recycling in the wrong bin and
no, in fairness,
that kind of crime?
he was suspected of over 100 thefts.
Oh, okay.
So he was basically stealing. He was a stealer. He stole property from people, but it wasn't because of the kind of, when you think about theft, it's like, oh, he's got that, I want that, so I'm going to get it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like that. It was just because he needs to survive. Like,
it was necessary.
Yeah, exactly. He did it. Maybe he got a buzz out of it or whatever, but he did it just because he could. And it wasn't really, in his eyes, well, I don't know, I can't speak for him, but I think he thought it wasn't hurting anyone. He was stealing from holiday homes. There weren't people in the house when he was stealing, so it wasn't like a B&E. He wasn't breaking and entering and harassing people. I think he was just getting blankets and food and stuff like that to kind of survive. I mean, he was suspected of these thefts from Washington State, from some thefts in Canada, Nebraska, and Illinois, which is... Washington State is on the West Coast. Illinois is like 100 miles away from New York. It's basically the East Coast.
Got around a bit, didn't he?
Yeah. It's... he did like to travel, let's say that. He did... Like I say, he was stealing food and supplies from holiday homes, and in one instance, this is fucking genius, he broke into a holiday home, ordered bear mace and night vision goggles off the person's computer that he broke into, and then went back and picked them up.
Love it.
So I don't know if this was Amazon Prime and he stayed there and just waited the next day, or if he was stalking out the place, so he just went, oh fuck, I've ordered that bear mace, I better go back there and see if it's arrived. kind of situation. I don't know.
I love it.
And the thing is as well, he actually did slip back home every now and then to have a hot bath and some ice cream, and his mother's is on record as saying that she always kept his favourite flavour in the freezer.
Oh, he'll be back when he runs out of Rocky Road.
Exactly. It's just like, he's just so... he's not... Yeah, exactly. He's like, you think criminal and you don't think of this, but obviously some people are outraged. In 2010, he did break into a veterinary clinic, left $100 and a note that said, drove by, had some extra cash, please use this money for the care of the animals.
Aww.
So he intentionally broke into a vet's clinic and left money.
That's so lovely.
Exactly.
It's not, but it's nice. It's you know what I mean.
Exactly, and they're calling him a criminal. I mean, I get it, but I just think the way that kind of he did start to escalate his crimes, obviously, and he did begin to steal cars. So this is one of the reasons why he got around places and pop up in other states. I mean, he did steal a truck from Iowa, he left it in Illinois, and he stole a Toyota in South Dakota, and it was recovered in Norfolk, Nebraska. I mean, the distances between these actual places is less than an hour, but Nebraska is 1,500 miles from Seattle, and Illinois is like over 2,000 miles away from Seattle.
Wow.
So this is where it leads into how did he get that far kind of thing. And another thing he did start to steal was aeroplanes.
What? Okay, when did he learn to fly?
So, this is fucking brilliant, right? He started to steal like Cessnas and small aircrafts. He was indicted for stealing one plane, and he's implicated in 2 other thefts of planes. One was owned by a local radio. I think he was a national radio DJ called Bob Rivers, and he was so pissed off about it.
I bet
He was
I would be
like,
as well.
He's on record as saying, "I don't buy into this folk hero stuff. I was furious that something like this could happen. I really want him caught." In fairness, he claimed it back on insurance, and the plane has been rebuilt and is now in Florida. So he didn't really.
No harm, no gain.
Yeah, he didn't really lose anything. But the folk hero status as well that Bob is claiming is because Colton actually became a legend around the area. Some guy in Seattle started selling T-shirts with Colton Harris's face on it. With
Harris for president.
It actually said "Mama tried" on it with his face. There was a Facebook fan page about him that had over 60,000 followers.
Love it.
As you can kind of understand, local people who were having their stuff stolen kind of went the other way with this, and they
with your Facebook fan page, not your planes he's nicking, is it? It's ours.
Exactly. And they wrote a song about him, and it is on YouTube.
No way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a country western ditty. It's
love it.
It is what it is. But started writing a blog, and they actually started selling merchandise. I've never dived into what the merchandise was, but it was to pay for maybe Dog the Bounty Hunter to come and chew some bubblegum and kick some ass. But they really wanted to hire a bounty hunter to try and find this kid. And as you say, where did he find the time, because he's been living in the woods all his time, to fly planes?
Maybe he stole a book from the library about how to fly a plane 101, and he just had nothing else to do in the woods, so he just thought, I'll just snuggle under me 10.5 tog duvet that I've nicked from the holiday home across the road. I'll put me can of Heinz beans on the little camping stove I nicked from the holiday home across the road, and I'll just dig into this How to Learn to Fly book that I just robbed from the library. From right under the librarian's nose.
You know what? Pretty much it.
Yeah.
He read books and manuals on how to fly planes. He watched a DVD which was handily titled How to Fly Small Airplanes. And he played...
On what did he watch the DVD on?
Well,
he'd have to break into somebody else's house, check they had a DVD player, and then watch the DVD that he'd nicked from somebody else's house.
He probably ordered it off Amazon with the bear mace and fucking night vision goggles. And apparently, he also played a lot of Microsoft Flight Simulator.
I mean, my dad played that a lot, and I'm fairly sure he could probably fly one of those, commercial passenger jets. I wouldn't want to get on it at the time.
God, but... yeah. Oh, God. I'm not going to Alicante this year, I tell you. But yeah, he just, self-taught, in Warren's. It was self-taught pilot. But the thing is, he fully, when he was caught, he turned around and said, you know what, I actually could have killed myself. But he pretty much landed every plane. Okay, they were damaged, but when you think of a plane crash and you go, oh my God, and people's clothes falling off and
Yeah.
What other lies you try and tell us when they're all having an orgy?
Yes.
He managed to touch down and walk away without injury. He never went to hospital with any injuries. He was never caught via that route anyway during these 2 years. And 3 planes.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
Exactly. I mean, so we're kind of winding up to the end of the story, and it kind of ends up in the Bahamas of all places. Because why not? Yeah, you see,
if you can fly a plane, get yourself away over there.
That's it. On July the 4th, I don't know if the irony was intended because it's Independence Day, but he stole a plane from Indiana, a Cessna 400 single-engine plane, and it was later recovered over 1,000 miles away on the shoreline of Great Abaco Island in the Bahamas.
Wow.
So he just went, you know what? Fuck this shit. Go and get me beach on.
Holiday.
Yeah. Go and get me beach on. In sandals. Let's go. Come on. All in. So, obviously, like now, because the Bahamas is pretty much made up of islands, he went, what mode of transport do I need to get around? Powerboats. That's the one.
Oh no!
So he did start stealing powerboats, and as soon as the plane was recovered, there was a lot of thefts over the island of small stuff going missing, blankets, food again, etc. There's a few powerboats missing, and in one of the documentaries about him I watched, it kind of the whole like ending or him getting caught. It was kind of like a Miami Vice episode where there was several speedboats chasing him. He had a speedboat. He went down to the harbour and went, "Hey, yeah, I'm Colton Harris Moore. Come and get me," and then sped off. And a load of people went, "Get to the boats, guys. Come on, let's go."
I love it.
I genuinely don't know how true that is, but there was a $10,000 bounty on his head, and it was actually paid out to 3 captains. So, do you know what? Maybe it was like Miami Vice, and
It sounds like it entirely could be.
Yeah,
He was just having fun, wasn't he?
He was basically just being a kid. I mean, there were reports of when he was on this chase, he kind of crashed onto a sandbank. He didn't crash, but he beached himself on a sandbank, and during this time, he had a gun and he put the gun to his head and he was claiming that he was going to kill himself. I don't know how much truth there is in that, because obviously the documentary I watched didn't have this. It was like he was kind of just buying time with it so he could speed away as it was set up. But maybe he was very, very depressed and very lost in the world and didn't know what he was doing with himself, and he just thought, you know what, F it, let's go for it. But I don't know. I mean,
He didn't sound like he was very depressed. He sounded like he was having the
time
of his life.
Exactly. I think he was just living his life, and he was a teenager. He was, I think he was about 18, 19 at this time. So I've done, like, when I was 18, all right, I didn't steal a boat, but fuck me, if I knew how to fly a plane, I would have, be in Malaga now. But yeah, so he was arrested in the Bahamas and he pled guilty to illegal entry and illegally landing a plane. And that carries a 3-month jail sentence or a $300 fine in the Bahamas. So he paid the fine and went, yeah, fine. Unfortunately, he was extradited to the US and then they got their filthy, filthy paws on him. And
No.
I'm going to have a rant about this because I just think it's the weirdest country in the world when it comes to how you cannot have a central system for crime. They just let states decide whatever is a crime. Like in New York, first-degree murder is if you kill a police officer or a first responder or if you're a nutter, basically. Do you know, John Gotti, who was head of the Gambino family, and there's evidence that he was a serial killer. He wasn't even charged with first-degree murder. And then you look at states like Alabama, and then first-degree murder is kind of if a black person looks at a white woman. That's all they need. And then that's it. They've gone away for life, and they don't have any appeals and shit. So I think it's just... maybe not central.
Messed up.
Exactly. Just centralise it, and this is the same here. Just because you can be carrying like a can of peas over the border into different states, and that could be a crime. And just because you're not aware of it, like say if I was a tourist and we went there and we carried something over the border which wasn't like not a gun or anything, but you know what I mean, but something, it could be a crime within different states, and it's just. You've got to be, like, you've got to have a degree in law just to travel.
Oracle.
Yeah, just to travel. And so this is the problem. So he was charged with federal crimes, which are bank robbery. Like some federal crimes are like bank robbery, murder, transporting a minor over state lines. For nefarious acts, I suppose. But because he travelled from state to state in stolen property, I think this is why this was a federal crime. And federal crimes are prosecuted by the assistant US attorneys. They're investigated by federal officers like the FBI, DEA, you know, that kind of level. Whereas... he didn't do anyone any harm. He didn't hurt anyone. He didn't... All right, he stole property and planes, obviously, 150 grand or whatever, but... insurance...
sheets of metal.
Yeah. And the thing is, the prosecution were looking at 9.5 years. They were trying to sentence him to 9.5 years for this, for a 20-year-old. Pretty much for he just went off into the wilderness. He was just trying to stay alive, food and blankets, fine, okay, it escalated and he started stealing property, but he never assaulted anyone, he never injured anyone.
He donated money to the vets for the animals.
Exactly, he had a good heart with it.
Yeah.
He was eventually sentenced to 6.5 years, and he was released after just over 4. Now, when he was in prison, he did he did actually apply for college to get a degree in aeronautical engineering.
Good for him.
Exactly. So he kind of... And as I said before, at his sentencing, he turned around to the judge and said, "There is no doubt in my mind I could have died doing the shit I did." But it was a laugh, weren't it?
I didn't.
Yeah, so there you go. So he was very remorseful for what he did, and the defence team also at his trial pointed to he didn't have the best upbringing. He was living on his own in the woods at 7 years old. 7 years old. Do you know what I mean? My nephew's 7 years old, and he can't live for himself back without 5 minutes. Like, if I... seriously, if I took a fucking wee off him, he'd be... Oh, that'd be it. He'd be climbing the walls. So imagine throwing him in the woods. I'd love to throw him in the woods, to be honest with you, but I mean, I think someone may have an issue with that.
Love it.
But yeah, so I mean, he's now been released from prison, and he is now doing clerical work for a Seattle law firm. Hopefully, that will open other avenues for him, and hopefully wish him the best of luck with that. The best thing about it is Fox Studios actually bought the film and the book rights to this story, so
Nice.
there'll be a film out soon. And he used the money to pay off the $129,000 of restitution that he owed to the people that he stole from. So he's pretty much out of jail now. Yeah, exactly. He's pretty much out of jail now. He's paid his price in the eyes of the law, and he's paid his price in the monetary things that he's done. And he's hopefully he's doing well, and he's out there. He was on Twitter, but he's actually deleted his account, I think, a couple of years ago. Yeah, he was just posting good things. But apparently he was a supporter of Trump. But everyone has their foibles, so...
This is true. I think we can forgive him.
Yeah, especially as he's...
so cool.
Yeah, he's just fucking mental. But yeah, so God bless you. Well done.
He sounds like the guy that you definitely want at all your parties.
Well, until you don't.
Provided you've hid all the valuables.
Yeah. You then like 10 o'clock, you'd be like, come on, Colin. There's a Toyota out front. Do you not want to go for a drive, steal it? I'll give you the keys if you want. But no, yeah, that was the story that I heard about and read into, and it kind of tickled me just because he just did everything off his own back. Like, he didn't really have an education because he wasn't in school because his mother didn't really control. I'm not going to say control him, but he didn't really care.
Yeah.
I have to actually say, which I forgot to put in my notes, but I've just remembered it now, that one of the guys that he committed his earlier crimes with was called Harley Davidson Iron Wing. So...
Wow. This is going to be an amazing movie. I think they could incorporate this into GTA 7.
I mean, that's the kind of people whose parents, like, you know what I mean? They go, what's a great name? Harley Davidson. I mean, their surname just happens to be Iron Wing. Maybe they were native or whatever, but Harley Davidson, awesome. It's our kid's name. Yeah. So nice. he didn't have a fight. I don't want to say a chance from the beginning, but he wasn't taken care of that much from the beginning. So I think to be honest with you, that this is all he did is quite a feat in itself, because he could have just gone like John Wayne Gacy'd it or fucking Dahmer'd it, you know? Yeah. And they had good childhoods, so... Exactly. So there you go.
He didn't do too bad for himself in the end, though.
No, God bless him, and I hope you're doing well, Colton. Yeah. And if you're listening, leave a comment, like and subscribe.
Yeah, and get an Etsy shop so we can buy your t-shirts.
Yeah, make some more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool. That was the true crime stories of Colton Harris Moore and the story The Body in Room 1046.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
You want to tell everybody what we're doing next week?
So next week, I don't know if I want to tell people, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. We're going to keep that as a surprise.
No. So next week, because... well, I don't know. What do you want to do? Do you want to leave it as a surprise?
No.
Okay. Right. Okay. Editing.
I hate surprises.
Oh, right. Well, there you go then. Okay. So, because Atreya hates surprises, I'll tell you.
I like to know what I'm getting myself in for, and I imagine I'm not the only person in the world, so...
'Tis true.
Surprises are shit.
'Tis true. I will take... Yes, that is a good point. That is a good point. Well put. So yeah, next week, what we are doing is, because it's our 20th episode, and because I've got a holiday, we're going to be doing a series finale. and we're going to have a couple of guests on. We're going to talk about a couple of funny things and then just do basically a series recap and take any questions that any of you have got out there. So if you've got any questions, just post them on the Twitter or in the Discord if you're in the Discord, and we'll try and answer them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be like last day of school kind of thing. We're gonna have a little bit of fun. Yeah. Ooh, okay.
No, not like that, Anne.
Oh, damn. Okay.
PG-13 show and tell. Actually, PG show and tell.
Even more disappointed.
Possibly with lots of curse words.
Yeah. So yeah. So PG, but fucking PG kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't actually wait. It's going to be really good. We're going to get different voices on for you all, and a different kind of, maybe not a different kind of vibe, but we're going to get different input and it's going to be good.
We'll
it's
learn
going to be
some
good.
new stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We've got some things that we're all going to talk about anyway, and yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But so for that, I can't wait, and I hope to see you all next week. But for the moment, this has been the MO podcast with me, Contumacious Anne.
And me, Atreya.
Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
The MO podcast. The MO podcast.